Hi, everybody. I'm Hadley Bajramovic, Gringa.
Yeah, la Chapina.
And, we're all excited right now because of the way Kamala Harris is being received and promoted and talked about. And we were watching social media posts yesterday about, I'm going to mess this up, Charlie XCX, is that right? Has an album called Brat. And so, according to my children who are Gen Zs, um, Kamala Harris being brat means that she's an unapologetic woman, kind of feral, which I love that word, kind of wild, like a cat. And that people really love that about Kamala Harris, like her laugh, and that she's a prosecutor. And it tickles me to no end that a prosecutor is running against Donald Trump.
I
So,
know.
I
How
mean,
funny.
and Zayra and I, are both going to be self-proclaimed brats right now because of who we are and who we've been. Um, and I mean, I know Zayra, and she just is totally the person that does everything her way. I mean, just move out of my way. This is how I'm going to do it, and startles people sometimes. But she knows what she wants, don't you? And you do
Yes.
it. Um, and Zyra, I think that this is the right time for you to tell your story and about how you came to the U.S. And you were telling me you asked your dad the other day, like, how did you have the money for this process? Because your family, you have 8 brothers and sisters,
We
7.
were back then. It was six of us plus my mom, so seven of us who were brought to the U.S. through my dad who migrated to the U.S. in 1984 before my little sister Fabiola was born. And so Fabi met my dad after like maybe 5 6 years after she was born.
I didn't
Until
think that.
yeah.
Oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh.
And I was
Okay.
2 years old when my dad left, so I had no memory of like him leaving or anything like that. So Fabi was not born. He migrated to the U.S. In on March of 1984, and Fabiola was born on October of 1984. So she met my dad until she was like 5 6 years old, until he was able to go back to Guatemala. And he got his status through the amnesty from the late 90s. I'm sorry, late 80s, early 90s. Um, and that's how he was able to petition us. And he was very, because I hear so many people that come to the office that have been here in this country for like 30 something years, 20 something years, and they have not been able to do anything. Or many of us who I guess who go to the migrate to the US, we think it's just gonna be like for a couple of years, whatever it takes us to gather enough money to build a house, to help our family. But we ended up staying, most of us. So a lot of people say like, I really didn't want to stay in the US. I was planning to just go back to my country, but 30 years later, they're still there, and they were not being able to get any status. So my dad was able to get a status through the amnesty. Um, he worked in the fields, and that's why he was able to do it. And he said that he went through a notario, of course, because that was like the norm, especially back in the day. Attorneys were expensive, or he didn't know how to. He didn't have a car. He didn't drive, so he pretty much relied on other people to take him to places and find those things out. So he went through a very popular known notario in Riverside, and I was asking my dad, Dad, how can you afford to bring us all of us? Because I mean, he always worked on minimum wage jobs, so he could. I just can't imagine how much it costs for seven, tickets to come from Guatemala to the U.S. and to, be able to process everything. So,
Government fees too, Zara. I mean, not only notarial, but government fees.
yes, exactly. And he just told me, well, I have savings. And my dad had never had any addictions. He never, drink or smoke or anything like that. So he pretty much saved his money, and he didn't drive. So so he saved a lot of the money that he would get from his jobs. And he was, living with my aunt. And we came to, in 1995, on January 26, 1995, to the US. And lived with my aunt in a three-bedroom tiny house. It was like all of my siblings, six of us, in a tiny room sleeping together. And my dad was like sleeping with my mom in the living room. And but we were blessed to have a place to stay. My aunt helped us a lot. And my dad, like I said, my dad has always been very persistent. And he's a very what's it called, he has worked very hard, and he has tried to do everything right. And he's very close to God, so that has always helped us. And so he was able to buy a house on that year that we came. So we moved to our own house on November of 1995, which it was something very big, be able to buy a house. And we had our struggles like everyone else. My dad was laid off of his job right when we got the house, so we had to rely on my oldest brother Osvaldo to be able to him to support us, and paying with my mom and my other brother Dennis, the house that we just bought. And my dad just lost his job. So we were going to school. We would take a bus from Reno Valley to Riverside. We spend the whole day out, taking bus and going to school. And but that just made us all very like strong, and really like pursue our dreams and work really hard. Because you know uh, my dad and my mom will work all day. And they had to rely on us a lot. And not speaking the language also was another barrier for us. So we did a lot of things that young kids shouldn't do, but we had to do it because we had to help my parents. Like make phone calls or ask things that we didn't know exactly what was it, but we had to do it because my parents were like working all day and doing things that we had to do, like paying bills and doing all these things, as little kids, because the other adults were working. So that's why I was like, we always been very hardworking. And like all of our um, in our community, and everybody in our community work really hard, and do very hard jobs. And but still to be able to manage and support the family. And just do a lot of things. My sister Judith, after being in this country for 2 years, she was accepted in UCR. And so that was a huge thing, because she came obviously not speaking English. She managed to finish high school and graduated with a very high GPA. And she went to UCR. She was accepted to UCR. And she encountered a lot of challenges. Like the school counselor would be like, "Oh, that's not for you. Like UCRs are not for you. Go to, back then it was like a community college, but it was not very good." So she was like, "No, I want to go to UCR. I want to study. I want to become a doctor," and things like that. So even a school counselor who's supposed to support you and encourage you, they were like, "No, no, that's not for you. Like, don't take SATs. Just go to a community college," which now it's the best option, to go to community college. But back then it was just like looked down, like really you weren't getting like a very good education back then. through college and through community college. And so my sister Judith, after 2 years of being in the U.S., she was accepted to UCR, and she ended up, going to Loma Linda and getting her master's. And all of my siblings, Fabiola also, we all went through school, and my oldest siblings, they just didn't take that, they couldn't take that opportunity that we could, they had to work. They didn't have a choice. And so we all knew that we had to push hard and work hard and help my family, my parents, because they made all these sacrifices to bring us here to take advantage of all the opportunities in this country. Um, so
Well,
yeah, that's
what made you want to get into immigration?
well, I was doing a lot of, like I said, we did a lot of things that we're not supposed to. Well, many kids don't do, but we had to because we were, you know, immigrants in this country, and we had to do a lot of things that my parents couldn't because, my parents only have a two-grade education, and I feel I'm so proud of them because they're so smart. They encourage us always to go to school because they couldn't do it because they were older. They had to take care of their other members of the family, and my mom was the oldest one in the family, so she had to help my grandma. So I was already doing a lot of like immigration applications, helping family members to fill them out, because I always been pretty good at completing documents and understanding and like really being detailed about what needs to be done. So I was always asked about, Saida, can you help me with this application? I'll be like, oh my God, like, okay. So I was doing that already, and we have a friend in common, who I met in UCR, which is Francisco Sola. Hey, Frankie, and so he told me, Saida, I know that you just got certified as an interpreter, medical interpreter, and there's this opportunity really close to your house, and in Moreno Valley with this immigration attorney. So I was like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, it always interests me because obviously as an immigrant, this is already part of my world. So, and I was very passionate. I always been very passionate about interpreting. So they're like, yeah, they need an assistant who's bilingual. So you should go and try to get interviewed and see if you get the job. So I came to the interview. I met with Carla, and she asked me questions, and she, according to Hadley, she really liked me, and she thought I was good for the position. So, I was able to get hired 14 years ago. Um, by Carla, and later on Hadley was like, this is just like a protocol, Carla likes you. I'm just here just to, to say that, yeah, you were hired, and you're not gonna get paid this much, but this much, um and you'll start like tomorrow or something like that. And I was just like, okay, yay. So yeah, the office was like driving maybe like 10 minutes away from my house. So it was something very convenient back in that day for me, obviously, that I was, I didn't have to drive long distances to be able to get to my job. So it was perfect.
Yeah, and that was history. And then we started doing so much work with different nonprofits and, the Consulate of Mexico, Consulate of Guatemala, Catholic Church, many different churches.
Going to Hemet with Isabel and her naturalization classes.
That's crazy. She had naturalization classes in a old garage,
Auto
that
shop.
auto shop, yeah, with a bunch of birds and cats. And these women brought food, and they learned what they needed to learn to naturalize. And she had like 100% success rate on naturalization for women who did not speak any English. And she got them. I mean, they weren't allowed to take the test in Spanish because of,
Yeah.
hadn't gotten old enough or had the green card long enough. Yeah, she was
Hmm.
amazing. May she rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been all over the world together, and been involved in so many different projects, and I had no idea how rich this career would be. And I do thank God every day that this is my calling, because it we change people's lives every day, and we've been put on the spot, and we're in the spotlight. We're on the front lines right now with the Republican Party having their main issue, illegal immigration. And the reason I came into the field was because I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and I was born in the late 60s, and in the 70s, things were still segregated, and I couldn't understand it. And I was very lucky. My siblings, we all talk about this, to have parents who were very liberal and progressive, and we never understood or recognized racism. I mean, in a way that we didn't know that somebody should be, would be, could be treated differently because of their skin color or where they were born. It just didn't even occur to us that that was a reason to think of
Mm-hmm.
something indifferently. I don't know how my parents managed to do that, because we went to private schools. We were literally in one of the deepest southern cities of the United States. And when I go
Mm-hmm.
back there, it's shocking because the divisions are still there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
better, but it's shocking for me. And I went to school at the University of Memphis in Tennessee, and the university has like a institute for the civil rights, and then it's very close to the Martin Luther King Museum for Civil Rights, which is where Martin Luther King was assassinated. It's in downtown Memphis. And you walk through the museum, and they have the Middle Passage exhibit, which shows what slaves endured when they were on the ship going from Africa to the port cities of the United States. And I mean, it's painful. I mean, you feel physical pain walking through that. And the letters from jail from Martin Luther King are displayed there. And one of our attorneys, Carlos Sanchez, was telling us that those letters from jail written by Martin Luther King inspired him too for civil disobedience. Like, an unjust law is not a law. We need to uphold the law. I mean, Gandhi did the same thing, civil disobedience. And just having that background, education, growing up the family I grew up in, and then I married somebody from Bosnia, and just working like Tina, you said, filling out forms. I was trying to figure out things for him as my spouse, and then his family members. They were in a war, a
Yeah.
really horrible genocide war, and that's what got me into immigration. But I started out doing academic petitions in a law firm in Memphis, and then got a job at UCR, where Judith, your sister, went to school, and I was director of the International Scholar Center. So my job there was to bring in professors and academics from around the world, and just Riverside was so different than the South, and I had to understand that there was a different kind of division in Riverside. I and only knew, there were white people and black people. That was how people were divided where I grew up. And here there was something new, like a Hispanic,
Yeah.
white, and, some, I don't know. And it feels uncomfortable even talking about that. But I didn't understand that there was something called Hispanic. It just wasn't something that I had been introduced to in the South. And my explanation was, in that time, white people were just assimilated Hispanic culture, and it was just all white. In fact, we had really good friends from Mexico in Memphis. I had no idea they were Hispanic. I just felt like, oh, this is, my friend Carlos from Mexico. I didn't, and then so here I kind of made mistakes and probably inadvertently insulted people by making assumptions or statements that were not correct because I didn't understand it. And as I got to understand that there was no uh, service, there was no, at that time, dedicated attorneys in this area for immigration. People were going to Los Angeles and notarios, like your dad did. So I
Yeah.
just said, I'm opening my private practice. And I think it was about a year later that from opening my practice that I hired you. And so now, if I go back to the South where I come from, I mean, I hesitate before I tell people I'm an immigration attorney. I mean, I've had it happen here in this parking lot where our office is located, where people have questioned me and what do I think I'm doing. Um, you're helping those illegals come in, and uh, in the South it is probably worse. I just don't tell people because I don't want to engage in that kind of a conversation with somebody who's,
Um,
I mean, we uphold the laws. We're not helping people circumvent laws. The whole point of an immigration attorney is to find the law that helps an individual who doesn't know. Like, people who are victim of crimes, we help them understand the U visa. So,
mhm.
and we do not condone what's happening at the border. That is exploitation of people from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, South America. Those are like greedy organizations taking advantage of people, and we do not condone that, and we don't defend it. And I don't know if Biden's new policies are working because it's summertime and it's you know hot, so we don't know if people are not crossing because it's hot. I think the crossings are down. But just so we make it clear that immigration practitioners do not condone this because it's exploitation. These people are being harmed and used. It's almost like indentured servant or slavery. People who owe one of these coyotes like $15,000, they go to work somewhere and they pay that coyote half their paycheck, every day, every week. So they're like slaves. So
Yeah.
no, we don't
I was
support it.
just talking to, I went to the market that I had like maybe 18 years of not going there. And my mom used to buy all the fruits and vegetables from this lady, and she has her husband migrated to the U.S. Years ago, and her then her children also came to the U.S. too. And so she said that she spent 200,000 Qs to send them to the U.S.
Well, what does that
Puro
entail?
coyote.
How much
Uh,
is that divided by 7? So like,
770.
okay, so $20,000-$30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, for somebody
And
who probably doesn't make that money in their lifetime.
yes, and she was saying how, her youngest was supposed to come, but then she ended up not coming anymore. She's 17. And I was like, don't do it. Like, don't go to the US. Don't, stay with your mom. Like, she has a business here. So I was like, it's not worth it. I told her, like, you have the debt going from your country, then going to the US and spending 15, $20,000 to have a representative, an attorney. So I was like, don't do it, and what I was gonna also say is that, there's still, like you said, it's just a criminal practice that they're doing, that they're, you know telling all these people that, yeah, come to the border, it's open, or you're gonna be allowed in, but they don't tell them, like, but yeah, but you're gonna have an ankle bracelet, or you're gonna be being detained. And I was gonna tell you that we had a consultation today with Leila, that this person who's now detained because he was removed when he was young,
Uh
from
huh.
to Mexico, he paid an attorney in Mexico to do his CBP one.
Oh, yeah. That's just upsetting.
Yeah, I told the sister this. We talked to the sister who's in Mexico. That she's like, yeah, and the attorney who helped him here completely, like, you know, she has no responsibility. She said that her work is done. I was like, he's not supposed to be paying a Mexican attorney who can't even practice the law my immigration law from the US to do this application, which he can do it himself. I told her, and she's like, oh. So now even attorneys in Mexico are charging people, who knows how much, I have to ask her, to get that info and to share with you guys, so you guys have this information and be aware of all these people who don't hold their hearts to defraud people like him. And so she's like, oh, okay, yeah, they obviously, they're, I guess, presenting, we'll help you, pay us, and we'll get you an appointment or something like that. I don't know what kind of,
I mean,
like.
Zyra, before all of this started, like in 2014, maybe from 2010 to 2014, you and I were going down to Tijuana and meeting people, and in Mexicali too, and explaining to people what they had to do to declare asylum.
Yeah,
I think we did it about 50 times,
60
and
plus.
explain the law to people, explain them how to enter the line, and legally do it. That's been replaced by CBP One, which I'm glad. That's an app where people can request an asylum interview, and they're called to the border to meet an officer when the interview is ready. And I would have loved to have that, like in 2010. That would have been awesome. But those are
Yeah,
sometimes scary. I mean, we had people that were being chased by cartels. You
yeah,
know, yeah, those were some of our real brat moments. Like what
yeah.
before we go, tell me what you think one of our biggest brat moments was.
Well, I guess winning our first deaf asylum case, it was one of those that
Right. Oh yeah.
we cried, we couldn't believe it, because yeah, when we started, it was just like, what are you guys talking about? Like, yeah, asylum for deaf people. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we got that approval, it's like, yes, we knew what we're doing. We knew that this could happen. We needed to help this group of people, wonderful
Yeah.
people. And so I still remember you opening that letter at Sunnymead, Avenue Boulevard, Sunnymead Boulevard in Moreno Valley, for one of our deaf clients. I don't know if I should mention her name, but no, but
Yeah.
yeah, we will, not, you know
Uh,
give her name, but it was one of our female, deaf clients. She also was actually a victim of trafficking, and she was even actually removed to Mexico after she was trafficked. So it was just, an amazing feeling of knowing that we needed to help these our deaf clients, and we knew that we could do this, and we tried really hard. And there was always people telling us, like, what are you doing? This is not something that
yeah.
is gonna work. And
Yeah. Like even
we
calling us,
pushed.
like, yeah, they're calling us scammers, and we're taking advantage of
Yes.
the debt.
And
Yeah.
we started doing consultation, and then 200, 400 deaf clients will show up in our in our office, and we'll do Saturday consultations until like 10 p.m. at night.
Mm-hmm.
And because they would just show up, and we're like, you know and we're like, I just, it makes me smile to think about those times, because
Yeah.
we all know that every single minute was worth what we're
Yeah.
doing. And so it was just such an amazing feeling, and meeting all these wonderful people. And so I think it was, I don't know, there's so many, but I think that one was just that, you crying and saying, I knew I could do this. I knew we could do this. I know there was, like, there was nothing before, but we made that happen. So I think that was one of our bad moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's going down to the border and in helping
I was gonna
people.
say that too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because they were both equally took courage and going against the grain, and people saying don't do it. Either it's
And
dangerous or
we made a joke that we were the cheapest coyotes.
yeah, yeah.
We'll go for like last man money pretty much.
But we were following the law, explaining the law, telling them what's going to happen when you get in the U.S. and how to remain in compliance with the law. So yeah, and the same with
Yeah,
the.
but I mean, those were one of my toughest moments in my career in the office, because it was just like you could see people like leaving everything they knew behind
Mhm,
and going somewhere that they didn't know what was gonna happen.
exactly.
And we helped this blind man come back to his family, and sadly passed away. But at least we have the consuelo. I don't know how to say that word in English, but we had at least the feeling that the console.
Consolation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is it
consolation means good. We understand and we know we did the right thing. Like we can be
yeah.
consoled. For that.
Yes, exactly. So, and we brought him to the border and declared asylum, and he came finally to his family. He passed away, but at least we know that he was with his loved ones, at least until he passed away, which will be sad because he was blind in a place, starving, and it was just a terrible, terrible situation. And we were able to help him and bring him back to the U.S. and spend his last days with his family.
Yeah.
So that was also, and I mean, and I have an elephant memory, so I can tell you 100 million stories. But obviously, we don't have enough time to tell
Yeah,
all these
we'll,
stories.
we'll, we'll throw a new one in every day. But thank you, everybody. We're very happy to be here and talk about this because it's therapeutic for us. Um,
Especially
and
during this week that has
yeah,
been like
it's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah, crazy. So we'll come back next time and tell you another story of a uh, you know courageous thing that we did, probably without thinking it through. Just on pure conviction that we're helping somebody, and
Yes.
you can judge us or congratulate us, whichever. But thank you, and see you next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Adios from La Chapina, Zayra Ivette Padilla.